Welcome back, everybody. This is the Calvin Ellen podcast, Calvin Ellen channel, where we not only talk about politics, podcasts, and all the amazing topics, but we do a little bit of science. All right, on this episode, we're going to define biodiversity and what that is, similar to just, defining what biodiversity is, breaking it down to three components. First, when we talk about biodiversity, biodiversity is just literally life that is different. So when we talk about biodiversity, we first want to define the word bio, which stands for life, right? Biology. And then the diversity of that life. Okay, so biodiversity is simply just the life that is different on the planet. Now, depending on the life that is different on the planet, determines what aspect of biodiversity we're talking about. Okay, so the way I like to break this down is to really go from the inner circle, which is the genes. So we talk about genetic diversity, and then we get into what comes of those chromosomes, what comes of those genetics, which is the species diversity. Now, specifically, when we talk about the species diversity, I want to emphasize that plants and animals are all different types of species. But when I'm speaking of specifically of the species diversity, I'm going to be specifically related to animals, okay? And then we have pretty much what we call the ecological diversity. Which is the habitats and where all the animals live, okay? And so let's first start off with genetic diversity. Genetic diversity, it simply breaks down the genes and combination of different organisms. Now, that's really important to understand. Just like as humans, in order for us to reproduce, typically it has to be a somewhat of different gene pool, right, in order for that reproduction rate of to work correctly. And typically it has to be, of someone of the same species. So the same things work when you talk about genetic diversity for animals. We talk about chromosomes, we talk about DNA. It's really important to make sure that that the genetics, match in some form or some shape so the reproduction could be successful. And then we get into the animals, right? So the species diversity. So this is pretty much, all of your species from your animals that you find in forests. So like lions, tigers, right? Now, if we were to go to maybe in a, more warmer habitat, right? We have, a certain type of like cactus, because it's a lot warmer. It can handle the dry areas, right? Those are plants, right? Fish is an example of species diversity, okay? And then humans are also an example of species diversity. And species diversity is typically refers to the number of different species that are found within a given area. Okay. Frogs. It's pretty much all animals you could be defined as species diversity. All right. And then now we get into the habitats, which is pretty much where the genetics which creates the species, where the species live. So the ecological diversity is pretty much where the species live. So when we talk about maybe in forests would typically be the a habitat, right? Inside the forest you have the birds, right, and all the other animals. So let's quickly write that down in there. All right, and then you got mountains, grassland, all right, oceans, we say grassland, ecosystems, forests. We could talk about islands, so land that's on top of water, islands, and cities. which doesn't have the most biodiversity. It actually has a lot of biodiversity, but you know what I mean. It's different. Okay. And then we can also talk about mountains, so but like volcanoes to be more specific. Okay. And so the key understanding of under when you're learning about biodiversity is that it has to be different, okay? Because when we are expanding and learning more about why biodiversity is important and how we grow it and how we increase it, the diversity is a very crucial piece because this is how we reproduce. Okay. This is how we not only understand the importance of life, but also understand that life is not the same. Life is different. And when we want to grow, diversity allows that, diversity to grow. All right. So